Let's face it. Slavery was a very bad thing, a very, very bad thing, and unfortunately we still feel its effects today. But it could still be a lot worse if it were not for many civil rights Supreme Court cases that helped mold a better landscape for future generations. Here is a brief history on the three that I think might be at the tippity top of importance. Let's hippity hop to it. Lamau. Shelley V Kraemer. January 14 of 1948 saw the start of the Supreme Court case of Shelley V Kraemer, regarding property ownership by African Americans. At the time, St. Louis had restrictive legislation that prevented certain minorities from occupying households even if they had gone through all the legal procedures to purchase the residency. Imagine you buy some candy as a young child, and your mom takes it away from you until you do whatever chores she wants done. Except, there are no chores, and the candy is a house, and your mom is actually the state government, and you're being wrongfully discriminated against. This is basically what happened to the Shelley family, but worse, and thankfully, the Supreme Court recognized this treatment as unconstitutional. Brown v. the Board of Education. The Brown v. Board of Education Supreme Court case began on December 9, 1952, while schools and public places were still segregated by race. This is exactly the reason that the Brown family, accompanied by an additional 12 like-minded families in the neighborhood, filed a lawsuit against the Topeka, Kansas Board of Education. The first verdict reached declared that the idea of separate but equal was fundamentally flawed and unconstitutional. This ruling was revisited and expanded upon in a separate case 4 years later. While the desegregation was undoubtedly another step in the right direction, it was still a very hostile time to be a minority in America. Loving v. Virginia. The case of Loving v. Virginia first opened on April 10 of 1967. Mildred Loving, a black woman, and Richard Loving, a white man, were sentenced to a year in prison due to laws that prohibited interracial marriages. June 12 saw a unanimous ruling in their favor that overturned Virginia's Racial Integrity Act of 1924 and that one's choice to marry whomever, should. I don't know, is it who or whom? English is so dumb, I swear. Anyway, the right to choose who you want to marry was constitutionally protected, and Virginia's laws violated that protection. This case paved the way for other groups to pursue similar rights. The most notable being the redefining of marriage to include and legally recognize homosexual relationships under a court of law. Without these civil rights cases, white Americans would likely still have the archaic mindsets that dominated the social climate 100 years ago. We would likely never have begun taking steps to right our wrongs and become a healthier, more welcoming nation. And we would never have been able to appreciate the legendary talent that is Donald Glover. Thank God for Donald Glover, you sexy, sexy man, and thank God for the brave men and women who stood up for what was right. This has been a brief history of 3 select Supreme Court cases that shaped civil rights. Thank for watching.